My parents tried to force me to raise my sister's twins and drop out of college. My brother saved me, but now he's depressed and alone after our whole family disowned us. Hi, I'm a 20-year-old woman, currently in my 4th semester of college. And honestly, the only reason I even got the chance to be here is because of my older brother, Mike, who's 27. His support made it possible, but it came with a cost. Both of us ended up cut off from our family, and now I'm writing this because I need help figuring out how to support him in return. He's struggling with depression and becoming more and more withdrawn. To give you some context, we grew up in a very patriarchal, conservative Christian household. We weren't exactly devout, but the rule was always the same: do what your parents say, no questions asked. Both of my parents are 43 now and are the oldest siblings in their families. My dad's side of the family, all of them, including his parents, 2 brothers, and a sister, live within a 20-minute drive of my childhood home. All of my aunts and uncles on that side are married, and I've got 8 cousins there. My mom's side of the family is originally from the same area too, but over the years, they've all moved away. My grandparents settled in a retirement community in Australia a while back. My uncle is in the military and currently stationed in the US, and my Aunt Kay moved to Australia after college for her career. We're from a Midwest state in the US, and we're white. The whole mess started back in spring of 2020, just before COVID hit hard. My older sister, Lisa, she's 22 now, was in college at the time. After a party, she ended up pregnant, but didn't find out until she was already back home that fall. It was my senior year of high school, and I was just starting to work on my college applications, all while Lisa, now visibly pregnant, was living at home. Mike had graduated college years earlier and was already working and living about an hour and a half away from our hometown. Lisa ended up giving birth to twins just after Thanksgiving in 2020. Then, in January 2021, I got some incredible news: I was accepted early to my dream school. It's not an Ivy League, but it's a top-tier public university in our state. Even better, I landed a scholarship that would cover all my tuition. The catch? It didn't include room and board. Still, I was over the moon. But things quickly fell apart. In May 2021, my parents sat me down and told me I wasn't allowed to go. Instead, I was expected to stay home and help raise Lisa's babies so she could return to school and get a better job to support her kids. When I pushed back, the conversation turned into a screaming match. My dad finally ended it by telling me his word was final, and that was that. That's when Mike stepped in. He called me after hearing what happened and told me there was no way he was letting that stand. We started making plans right away. I also want to give a quick shout out to those Reddit posts from early 2021, the ones that explained how to leave a toxic home and what to prepare. They were a lifesaver. Mike and I had casually talked about this during his visits, usually over lunch, and by July, I had packed my essentials, left a letter behind for our parents, and after another lunch with Mike, I went home with him and never looked back. The fallout was exactly what we expected. Angry phone calls, furious text messages. It didn't take long before we were both officially disowned for being disloyal. Mike had seen it coming and prepared me emotionally, so while it hurt, it wasn't shocking. That August, he paid off the remaining balance I owed and personally dropped me off at my dorm. Since then, he's covered my room, board, and anything else my scholarship didn't handle. Thanks to him, I've been able to live and study here ever since, and I truly don't know how to repay him for what he's done. We haven't heard a word from our parents, Lisa, or anyone on Dad's side of the family. They've completely cut us off. I do still keep in touch with 2 cousins, both girls, 19 and 17, and they've been supportive. They think Mike and I made the right decision. We do still have a relationship with Mom's side of the family, though. Mike and I flew out to Australia the last 2 holiday seasons to spend time with them. It was during the most recent visit that Aunt Kay brought something up, something that's been weighing on me since. She mentioned she's worried about Mike. They've always been close. She's only 3 years older than him, and we all basically grew up like siblings in our grandparents' house. She noticed some things in his behavior that didn't sit right. That's what this is really about. Aunt Kay and I both see it now. Mike seems more isolated, more withdrawn, and honestly, a little depressed. And I want to help him before it gets worse. Mike has always been more of an introvert, and his social circle has never been huge. But a big part of his life was our extended paternal family. There were always BBQs, especially during football season. It felt like something was going on almost every weekend. Add in holidays and birthdays, and you'd have at least 2 big family events a month. Mike usually showed up to most of them and really made an effort to connect with our dad and uncles, even if they never treated him warmly. But now, that whole part of his life is just gone. For the past year and a half, he's had no real outlet or regular social connection. And I think it's taking a toll. So, Reddit, if anyone out there has advice, I'm all ears. Mike gave me my future back. I want to figure out how to return the favor and help him out of this dark place. Thank you in advance. Mike told me he never seriously thought about hurting himself, but he admitted he often feels lost. He said there are times when his thoughts get really dark and spiral to a point that messes with his entire mood. He gets frustrated with himself a lot and struggles with where he's at in life, especially when he compares himself to his friends. He said sometimes he can't even look at himself in the mirror because he feels embarrassed by how little progress he thinks he's made outside of work. What really got to me was when he explained how all his closest friends have moved on, starting families, settling into careers, buying houses, while he feels like he's stuck in place. Like life moved on without him and he missed the train. He even joked, kind of sadly, that he's afraid he's becoming the kind of person people write about on their own Reddit subs. Sometimes, instead of going home after work, he just drives around the city for hours. He said it helps him avoid the silence of his apartment. And there have been nights, he admitted, when he went to bed thinking he wouldn't care if he woke up or not. Hearing that shattered me. It scared me more than I can even explain. He agreed that what he's feeling isn't normal or healthy, to put it lightly, and said he knows it's probably time to talk to a professional. We started talking about how his social life changed after college. He said that for the first few years post-graduation, he and his closest friends and their partners would hang out several times a week. They'd even take group trips every couple months. But he broke up with his girlfriend of 4 years in 2019, and when COVID hit in 2020, the group meetups started slowing down. As his friends got more serious with their partners and had kids, their hangouts dropped to once a month, if that. Mike knows what happened, and he doesn't blame anyone, but he told me it's been hard meeting new people. He's tried to get involved in new activities, but he finds it difficult to really connect. Most people already have their social circles, and while he's met some acquaintances, he doesn't feel especially close to any of them. He said that when he was still going to family events, birthday parties, BBQs, football Sundays, at least that filled a social void. He spent a lot of time around our nieces after they were born, and it helped. But after we were cut off from that part of the family, that entire support system disappeared, and he just didn't know how to process the loss until I forced the conversation. Someone in the comments on my Reddit post had said I shouldn't keep trying to justify what our parents did. They were right. What they tried to force on me was beyond cruel. It was selfish and inexcusable. I asked Mike directly if he would ever want to reconnect with our family if they reached out. His answer was, "Lisa, maybe. Mom, it depends. Everyone else? Not a chance." That surprised me, so I asked why. He pulled out his phone and showed me the old text messages from right after I left. There were several from our dad, furious, aggressive, calling Mike a disgrace, telling him he was disowned, and demanding that he return me like I was a missing object. He accused Mike of masterminding some plot to destroy the family. It was disturbing. One of our uncles mocked Mike's masculinity because he enjoys reading fantasy novels and works as an engineer. Apparently, that's not manly enough. An aunt literally threatened to cut off his balls because she thought he was the source of my disobedience. And another uncle said he'd beat him to a pulp if he ever saw him again. I mean, personally? I think Mike would wipe the floor with any one of them if it came to that. But still, it was horrifying. Even our grandparents and other relatives on Dad's side chimed in with cruel messages. I'd gotten some angry texts too, but nothing that crossed into threats. Seeing all this made my stomach turn. I looked at him, kind of stunned, but he just smirked and said, "Well, at least now I know how they really feel." Then I asked about Mom. I braced myself for more of the same, but what he showed me completely threw me off. Her last few texts to him were different. She had written, "Your father needs you to bring her back right now." To which Mike replied, "I can't do that, Mom. You know if I do, she'll never be able to get out." Her final response was, "I know. Please take care of her. I love you both." Mike replied, "I will. I love you too." I won't lie, I cried when I read that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around her response. It doesn't make sense alongside the others. Later, I brought up something that's been weighing on me. I asked him straight up if he'd be okay with me taking out a loan to cover my college expenses moving forward. I didn't want to keep relying on him, but he immediately shot it down. I told him I didn't want him going into debt for me, and he assured me he wasn't. He pulled up his account right there and showed me the most recent transaction, a transfer from his savings straight to my school. He explained that he wants me to graduate debt-free, like he did, because it makes a huge difference. Most of his friends are carrying over $40,000 in debt, and even though loan payments are paused right now, they're going to resume eventually. He said he had earned merit scholarships and a few grants that covered most of his costs back then. It left him with just about $2,000 per semester to pay, which he managed through work. We didn't grow up in poverty, but we were definitely at the lower end of the middle class. I would have qualified for need-based aid too, but my parents refused to fill out the forms, so I couldn't access federal grants or loans. They also refused to co-sign anything. That was their way of controlling me, trapping me at home. When Mike found out, he ran the numbers and figured out that as long as I kept my tuition scholarship, he could handle the rest. It's roughly $7,000 per semester he's been covering. It helps me so much to know he's not going into debt for me. And I've made it my mission to keep my GPA high to maintain my scholarships. He told me not to stress about the money and just to keep doing my best. Something else I found out, he's still sending money to Lisa every month. I knew he had before, but I didn't realize he was still doing it. When I asked why, he just shrugged and said, "Pretty sure the kids aren't eating less." We ended up talking way longer than I expected. Around 7 p.m., my roommates came back and asked if we wanted to grab dinner. I asked Mike if he wanted to stay, and he said yes. We ordered pizza, and all 6 of us, me, Mike, my 3 roommates, and one of their boyfriends, sat down to eat in the living room. Honestly, I could tell this was Mike's worst nightmare, sitting in a group of people he didn't know, trying to make small talk. His body language gave it all away. He was tense, head down, shoulders hunched. But my friend Nikki was amazing. She made sure to include him in the conversation, and after 10 or 15 minutes, I noticed a change. He sat back a little. His posture relaxed. He started to chime in more naturally. I was so relieved. It reminded me that he might just be someone who takes a little time to warm up in new settings, but once he's comfortable, he opens up. That made me feel hopeful. He ended up spending the night on our couch. The next morning, he took me out for breakfast so we could talk more before he headed home. When we hugged goodbye at work, it lasted a while. Mike thanked me for noticing he was struggling and for actually doing something about it. He said reading through the Reddit comments, talking things out with me, and starting to think about solutions made him feel better than he had in a long time. I told him I loved him, and reminded him, as always, that we're in this together. We're a team, no matter what. Afterward, I called Aunt Kay to fill her in. She was really glad he opened up, even if it took some nudging. She knows it probably wasn't easy for him to talk about this stuff, especially since he's always been pretty private. She said she's going to keep encouraging him to step outside his comfort zone a bit more and start putting himself out there socially. He's got some homework now, looking for new hobbies or local events, anything that could help him meet people and start building new connections. I also told him that before we meet up again, he needs to have at least 2 dating apps running. Non-negotiable. I even offered to help him set up his profile, photos, bios, all of it. We laughed about it, but he agreed. It made me really happy that he doesn't seem to regret what we did, leaving home, going no contact with most of the family. I know I don't. He's more focused now on moving forward than looking back. I understand this process will take time. There will be hard days. But I told him I'll be right beside him through it all. I also reached out to a few of his old friends on social media to see if they'd be open to chatting with me about how he's really doing. I even want to speak with some of their partners too, just to get a female friend's perspective, something beyond just my sisterly view. And, to the person who DM'd me suggesting I sleep with my brother to help him, I don't even know how to respond to that. Just, what? No. Gross. He's not my type, and we're not that close. What is wrong with people? SMH. Anyway, I guess this is my final update for now. Unless something big happens, I'll either put it in the comments or on my personal page if the post gets locked. I want to sincerely thank everyone who commented with kind words, support, and advice. You all gave us ideas and insights we hadn't even thought of. Seriously, it meant the world to both of us. Much love to the Hive Mind. Edit, just a few things I wanted to respond to before the original post got removed or locked. 1. A few people suggested I talk to my financial aid office about becoming an independent student for aid purposes. I didn't know that was an option, but I'm definitely going to look into it. Thank you for that tip, it could change a lot for me. 2. Mike has everyone blocked on his phone now, everyone except for our mom and Lisa. I know it hurts him that the twins are probably growing up in such a toxic environment, and there's nothing he can do about it. 3. That controlling side of my dad didn't really show itself in full until our grandparents, mom's parents, moved permanently to Australia. We had been living in their house, and Grandpa was always the real authority figure. Once they left, my dad fully stepped into the man of the house role, and that's when things really shifted. Mike had already gone off to college by then, so he didn't experience it like I did. And around that time, Lisa hit 8th grade and started discovering boys, which may have added to the tension at home. For Mike was always such a great big brother to both Lisa and me. He doted on us when we were little, and even after he started working or came home from college, he'd make time to take each of us out separately for ice cream or just to hang out. Mom did that too. No matter how tight money was, she always made a point to give each of us one-on-one time. Sometimes it was just a $1 drink and shared fries from McDonald's, but it meant the world. 5. That night we had dinner with my friends. It was honestly the first time I'd seen Mike interact socially with people he didn't know. At first, he was stiff, almost robotic, and kept his guard up. But slowly, as the conversation went on, he loosened up. My friends were so sweet, they made an effort to keep him included, and Rob, my roommate's boyfriend, even chatted with him about school. Turns out they went to rival colleges, which sparked a fun little back and forth. Once Mike felt like part of the group, he really changed. He was engaged and relaxed, it was like a different person emerged. 6. Mike admitted he needs to start prioritizing his emotional, social, and mental health the same way he's always prioritized taking care of others. He knows it won't be easy and that there'll be rough patches, but he's open to working on it. And more importantly, he knows he has support. 7. He's in the process of setting up a therapy appointment through his employer's EAP. I told him I wouldn't judge anything he shared with me, and I meant that, but some of the things he said really shook me. It broke my heart knowing he was carrying so much pain on his own. 8. I had never seen those family messages until he showed them to me that day. They were from right after we left home, and he never deleted them. I think you all are right, our mom is probably suffering emotionally in that household. And I worry about her, my sister, and especially the twins being trapped in that toxic environment. 9. I've started FaceTiming and calling Mike more often instead of just texting. It's made our bond even stronger. He needs that connection just as much as I do. And just a final thought, I realized after reading through so many of your comments that I was way too close to the situation to clearly see my family dynamic. I even found myself trying to defend my parents at one point. But stepping back and reflecting, I've learned so much. My parents always preached about being good Christians, about obeying authority, especially fathers, but the deeper issue is that my dad's family is way more narcissistic and controlling than what's considered normal even in our conservative community. My mom's side, who came from the same church, were much more moderate and balanced. It's hard to tell now whether it was more about religion or just plain dysfunction, but honestly, I don't think it matters. One thing's for sure, my dad, being the oldest son in his family and even among his cousins, was always expected to be the shining example. And clearly, that pressure didn't turn him into a better man. If anything, it made things worse for all of us. So now, this is where we stand. Mike's still taking things one step at a time, and I'm doing what I can to support him without pushing too hard. He's not magically better overnight, but something shifted after that weekend. There's this quiet determination in him now. He's no longer pretending everything's fine, he's facing things, acknowledging what he's been through, and taking small but steady steps forward. That means something. He signed up for 2 dating apps just like I asked, and yes, I helped him build his profiles. We laughed our way through choosing photos and crafting bios that didn't make him sound like a robot or a recluse. I even managed to talk him into uploading a picture where he's smiling, which felt like a win all by itself. He also started going to a weekly meetup for a board game group in his city. He was hesitant at first, but after 2 sessions, he said it wasn't bad. He's not best friends with anyone yet, but at least he's showing up, which is more than he's done in a long time. We FaceTime every week now. Sometimes it's just a quick call to check in. Sometimes we talk for over an hour. We've been sharing more of our lives with each other, TV shows, dumb memes, meal ideas, whatever. It's helping both of us, honestly. As for me, I've been working hard to stay focused on school. I'm keeping my GPA up and holding onto that scholarship with everything I've got. I owe Mike so much, not just for the financial support, but for believing in me when our own parents didn't. I won't let him down. Looking back, it's wild how much has changed in less than 2 years. I went from being trapped in a house where I was expected to sacrifice my dreams to raise my sister's kids, to living in a dorm, studying at the school I always wanted, and slowly starting to build the kind of life I used to think I'd never have. And all of it, every single part, was because Mike refused to let me give up on myself. He gave me a future. Now I just want to help him find peace, joy, and connection again. Our family might never come around. That door, for the most part, is closed. But we found something stronger in the ashes of all that dysfunction, we found freedom. And more importantly, we found each other. So that's our story. A brother and sister who had to walk away from almost everything just to finally start living. We're still figuring it all out, but at least now, we're not doing it alone.